Folks, we are live with the Rotoworld Football Show from Super Bowl 57 in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm Denny Carter, joined by my colleague, Lawrence Jackson. We are creating as much content as possible for you, the listener, while we're here at the Super Bowl having a good time. We have a very special guest today, 49ers Insider Matt Maiocco. We're going to talk about DFS lineups for the Showdown lineups for the Super Bowl. Lots to talk about there. Lots of galaxy braining, honestly, to do there. And we have some prop bets, some obscure prop bets. We're not talking Travis Kelce. We're not talking Patrick Mahomes. We're talking the guys. We're gonna get down in the dirt.
We gotta dig a little deep here.
That's right.
Definitely.
That's right. So Lawrence, tell me, how are you liking your first experience at the Super Bowl here?
Well, we here at Radio Row, as you can see in the background here, it's a good environment, man. Everybody just doing their thing. You seeing, all the medias and all the players out there. We just had Debo Samuel like right there. You know what I'm saying? Christian McCaffrey then been over here, so it's cool, man. See the players and interact with other people in the industry, man. So it's good vibes going around.
Sure. I want to tell folks how difficult it is, ironically, to get a football at the Super Bowl. Lawrence and I have spent the past 48 hours almost constantly in the media facility looking for anyone. And if you're listening, folks, anyone, to give us one football so we can film a bit for social media, for Twitter and Instagram, Facebook. But no, we've asked around. Hey, you know what a football is? And they say, I don't know. Why do you need a football? Well, because here's the thing. They have an NFL experience here with a bunch of
a lot of football equipment, but no actual football.
A bunch of stuff to do. It hinges entirely on access to a football. We're hoping. And we're working very hard and looking very strongly into.
We've actually secured one. NBC, we have secured.
I didn't know that.
we actually had to end up purchasing one, so we now have that at our disposal.
All right.
It cost an undisclosed amount of money, which I won't mention because I didn't have nothing to do with paying for it. But I'm glad that we have it, so it's all good.
We want to thank NBC Universal for purchasing that football. But yeah, we were trying very hard to get that. It was unbelievably difficult here. I will say one thing that's different between last year's Super Bowl in LA and this year's Super Bowl is that I did not get a chance last year to work with Lawrence to make the videos that he is so expert at making, and I get to sit there and watch him edit these videos like a pro's pro. Lawrence, I have to say I'm very impressed with how you manipulate the images. I don't know how you do it.
I appreciate it, and hopefully, NBC is seeing that as well. So when they, they could add something else, to my title.
That's right.
Change that title and change that money. I'll be all good with that. So yeah, man. But nah, it's been a good experience. Just to get in to do the videos with somebody else that I work where we could, when there's more bodies, whether you be in a crash dummy or not, it's it gives us more options to do things. So
that's right.
It's been good.
And we ran the 40 yesterday, and when I say ran the 40, I mean we mostly jogged the 40. and Lawrence, I'm gonna show you some of the sausage making behind the scenes here. Lawrence actually sped up the footage there to make me look faster. I know you didn't think it was possible that I could look faster than I am. I'm a fast guy.
4.5 and a 40, man. That's pretty fast.
But he hit that 1.5 times speed button, and I was flying. All of a sudden, I was Chris Johnson. So I do I do appreciate that. I also I had a higher jump. What do you call that, Joe?
That's what supposedly the judges got Denny at a 50-inch vertical each somehow, and me at only 22, but. It's okay because I'm a scrappy player.
He is, and he said so. Lawrence said he saw Debo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. I do wonder how much the 49ers players can talk about how they were robbed in the NFC Championship before it gets a little old. I'm not sure that that's that's going over well with everybody here.
Probably not much. And speaking of 49ers, I also saw a 49er great. You know, I don't know. There's so many 49er greats. I don't know if it's probably Jerry Rice, right? But I saw Joe Montana walking around earlier. So
really?
So you got some current players walking around. You got some former players, and then you got just straight up legends walking around here, man. So it's definitely a good atmosphere, football wise.
Well, last year I had the honor of seeing Justin Herbert, and when I say honor, I mean mostly the honor of seeing Justin Herbert's amazing hair. And I know it's a little shorter this year, but I'm hoping to once again see Justin Herbert's hair.
Maybe you could grow it like that.
I don't know. I can't look like that. First of all, I'm not 23 years old or whatever.
You just go full mullet.
Full mullet. I grew it out during. The folks know I grew it out during COVID. It didn't quite look as nice as Justin Herbert. I have to say. Well, folks, we're gonna take a quick break here and come back with Matt Maiocco from NBC Sports Bay Area. I want to tell you about NBC Sports' Super Bowl coverage real quick. We have live coverage from the Super Bowl in Arizona all week on Peacock. You got to get the Peacock app. Our daily lineup includes the Dan Patrick Show at 9 a.m., the Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry at 12 p.m. Eastern. We have PFT Live after that at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then after that, we have Brother from Another at 3 p.m. If you don't catch it on video, you can always check it out on the audio versions wherever you download and subscribe to your podcasts. We're going to welcome in Matt here. You want to come over? Yeah. To the show. And we are going to adjust our camera here. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Can we get Matt in the shot here?
Squeeze in a little bit more.
There we go. There he is.
Nice. Okay. All right. Matt, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We had a lot of questions about the 49ers, both the current, this past year and then going forward. One thing I wanted to ask you off the bat here is the quarterback situation. I know there's not a ton of clarity yet, but Kyle Shanahan seems adamant that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be involved in the quarterback situation for once here. Do you see any scenario in which he's back next year?
I don't, because I think that if you look at Brock Purdy and Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, if all those guys are healthy, Jimmy Garoppolo is not a starter. He wasn't a year ago. That was Trey Lance. And then the way Brock Purdy played so well late in the season, I almost got the feeling that Kyle Shanahan trusted Brock Purdy more than he ever trusted Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
So as an unrestricted free agent, why would Jimmy Garoppolo even go down that road of re-signing with a team that doesn't consider him a starter?
Sure.
And also what that means is we expect, I think you guys all expect Jimmy Garoppolo to have a starting opportunity somewhere. And he's going to sign for starters' money. Yeah, definitely. And we can tick off we could tick off a dozen teams in the league where Jimmy Garoppolo could considerably, or could be conceivably be the starter.
And a good amount of those are in the NFC South.
Yes. I mean, those teams you got, but also you got the New York Jets. What are they going to do at quarterback? I mean, if they had a solid quarterback, which I would consider Jimmy Garoppolo.
Definitely.
If they have a solid quarterback, they have enough around the quarterback position, they could win a lot of games. You also have the Las Vegas Raiders with Josh McDaniels. You have the Houston Texans with D'Amico Ryans, with Nick Caserio, with offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, at least I think he's going to get that job. Those are all people connected to Garoppolo. You have the Washington Commanders that wanted Garoppolo a year ago until he had the surgery, and now they have.
Speaking of Commanders, we see Ron Rivera walking in.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, maybe we should ask him. But the point is, if you're Garoppolo, the 49ers don't want him to be the starter. Okay. He would be coming in as a backup. So that means that's backup money. Yeah. If you're Garoppolo, why wouldn't you take starters' money and a place where he could be a starter? So that's why he closed the door and said he doesn't see any scenario. Now, at the same time, you have Brock Purdy, who hasn't even had his elbow surgery yet, so you don't know exactly what's going to happen there. And then you have Trey Lance, who's only played 4 games in 2 years, and he's coming off a broken ankle.
Right.
Yeah. So the 49ers still, they consider Brock Purdy and Trey Lance to be their 2 quarterbacks, but there's still some uncertainty there. Okay. But the one certainty is that Jimmy Garoppolo will have to find somewhere else.
Yeah. That's some clarity that we haven't had in past off seasons, where Garoppolo sort of hung over everything. As a follow-up to that question, do you think that Purdy can be ready for next season? Because I've read a little bit about that injury, and you said he hasn't had the surgery yet, but it could be a situation where he's not ready until well into the season. Yeah. And would that mean that Trey Lance is the odds-on favorite to start next year?
Well, I'm not a doctor. Right. I do play one on the internet.
A lot of people do. A lot of people
social
do.
Media, yeah. But it looks as if he's going to avoid the full-on Tommy John. Okay. So the Tommy John is a complete reconstruction of the ulnar collateral ligament.
Right.
Which is that's more of a baseball injury. Right. It's a wear and tear injury because of the violent nature of throwing a baseball. Football, you don't get that Tommy John injury, or you don't get the injury to the UCL unless there's an impact, which is what happened with him when Hassan Reddick hit him. The torque that it created, it tore that ligament. Now, because the football throwing motion is different, there hasn't been that wear and tear. So the ligament can be saved. So now it's just a repair. And that means, whereas if it was Tommy John, you're looking at a year plus. Right. If it's just the repair, you're looking at, if everything goes well, 6 months. So conceivably, the team believes and hopes, I guess I should say, they're optimistic that he can be surgery to playing football again in 6 months. Okay. Now, a lot of things have to go right. And that's not, every case isn't the same, but they hope, they expect, they're optimistic that Brock Purdy will be healthy, and then they know that Trey Lance is not far away.
And there was certainly a slither of a window that got open for Trey Lance, because we figured if Brock Purdy leads the team to the Super Bowl and it was because of him, it would have been hard to remove him from that spot. But now there's more of an opening. But
don't you think, Lawrence, that it's still, they never really lost with him at quarterback.
Right. And to be fair, I don't think we could say that the stretch that Brock Purdy had, right, has Jimmy G ever had a stretch like that?
Probably not. Jimmy did a good job, really good job this season of avoiding takeaways. Avoiding giveaways, I should say.
Right.
Avoiding turnovers. So he did really well this year. This was his best season. But Brock Purdy stepped in as a rookie and did that. We're talking basically, 8 games as the quarterback. He had 3 interceptions in those 8 games. One of them was off the hands of a receiver. And he had 0 fumbles. Yeah. Not lost fumbles, 0 fumbles until the Hassan Reddick play. So I think Brock Purdy has done enough to win that starting job. Now it's a matter of health, and by Brock Purdy not taking part in the offseason program, that does open the door for Trey Lance in the offseason to continue to grow and improve. But think about it this way too: is that people say, well, should there be a quarterback competition? I'm of the belief that Kyle Shanahan already knows.
I feel like that too. Yeah.
Who knows more about people than other people who are working closely? Right. So he knows what Trey Lance is capable of. Yeah. He knows what Brock Purdy is capable of. He knows more about Brock Purdy at this point than Trey Lance, because Brock Purdy's played more games. And these are high leverage games.
Yeah.
So this was late in the season.
This is down the stretch we're talking. Right.
Trying to get into the postseason. B, trying to win the NFC West. And then now it's a first-round playoff game. Now it's a second-round playoff game. Playing the Seahawks, playing the Cowboys, and then going on the road in Philadelphia, and then that game's over after 6 snaps because of the elbow injury.
Yeah. So with Purdy, I should say, does Purdy fit the Shanahan system better than Trey Lance, or is that too simplified? Are there other ways to fit that system? Because I tend to think that Trey Lance just kind of doesn't fit in with what Shanahan wants to do?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great question. I think that for this current iteration of the 49ers, Brock Purdy is perfect because he doesn't have to do a whole lot. I mean, he's got Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell at the running back position. You have a good fullback in Kyle Juszczyk, who they can use in a number of different ways. The best.
The best.
Not the only.
They got the best fullback and the best running back. Yeah. And then you got a elite receiver.
And you got Deebo Samuel. You have Brandon Aiyuk. You have Juwan Jennings, who's a really good third down receiver. You have George Kittle. So you don't need a quarterback who's going to be, running for 70 yards a game either. Right. All you need is a distributor, and that's what Brock Purdy does. Brock Purdy knows the system. He goes through his reads. He's decisive. If you get open, regardless of where you are in the progression, he'll find you. But, several years ago, what year was that? 2020. The 49ers played the Buffalo Bills, and Josh Allen ran all over the 49ers and threw the football all over, around, through, over everywhere. Yeah, he just crushed them. And I remember after that, there seemed to be this thought of, Kyle Shanahan has put together some really good offenses with kind of, I was going to say middling talent, but let's just say nothing spectacular. Right. Just kind of good football players.
Good dudes that could, like you said, distribute.
Yeah. So what would that offense be if you add a dynamic dual threat quarterback? So that's where things were going. Right. So I actually think that for this current 49ers team, with as many offensive weapons and playmakers as they have, Brock Purdy's the perfect guy.
Yeah.
If the talent starts to diminish a little bit and they need more out of that quarterback position, Trey Lance would be. Now it's high risk, high reward.
Yes.
With Trey Lance, whereas Brock Purdy, I think it's like steady Purdy.
Yeah. And speaking of the talent diminishing, what I wanted to ask you is about one of those weapons, Brandon Aiyuk. He's entering the last year of his rookie contract, and there's guys like him and T. Higgins who they talk about getting traded so that they could get something for him. Do you see him, sticking around here? Because they got a lot of guys. They got a lot of guys to get paid. Obviously, you still got Purdy and Lance on the rookie contracts, but you got ballers on both sides of the football. So, and then if you are going to lose a player like Aiyuk, we definitely respect what he does, but then you still have CMC, Deebo, George Kittle. So how do you see that situation shaking out?
Yeah, I think they keep him. And now, are they able to sign him to a long-term extension? That's another question. But no, I mean, you have, on the other side of the ball, you have Nick Bosa, who's going to become the highest-paid defensive player in the league this offseason. So you kind of mentioned that. I mean, you can't keep everybody.
Right.
So you do have to make some difficult decisions. I know they like Brandon Aiyuk a lot. And I know that, Aiyuk really likes playing for the 49ers. But he is entering the final year of his rookie contract. This is the first time that they can present him with a long-term extension after his third season, which was this current season that just concluded for the 49ers. So I'm sure that, the sides will get together this offseason and see if they can work something out multi-year wise. Maybe there's just a way to structure it or kind of work around. Maybe you kind of push those decisions to the future, whether it's, Deebo Samuel, as his salary starts to increase, you have to make a tough decision with him later, or the tough decision with Brandon Aiyuk now or later. I think they can make this work. They would like to make it work. But when it actually comes to, getting the spreadsheet out and making the numbers
fit, tough to get two receivers in there.
It is.
Plus CMC.
It is. I mean, now that you mentioned that, how many teams have two high-priced receivers?
The Chargers. And they're talking about Keenan Allen getting released. So that always is going to come to a head.
Yeah. So, the 49ers are in this situation where they had Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk both on rookie deals for a couple of years. And then, of course, Deebo Samuel got paid last offseason. And it could be Brandon Aiyuk's turn this offseason.
Right. Real quick question on the fantasy side of things. I know you probably heard this a million times, but fantasy managers want nothing more than for George Kittle to run more routes and be more involved in the offense. And because every time he is, he's hyper efficient. He makes, long catches and runs, yards after the catch, touchdowns, whatever. We love it. The thing is, he's used as a blocker so much that it kind of takes away from his fantasy appeal. Is there any chance of that changing in the future, or is he just locked into this role as a dominant blocker, honestly?
As a fantasy owner, I would be very reluctant, I think, for the 2023 season to invest a high pick in anybody not named Christian McCaffrey. Because Christian McCaffrey will get his touches as a running back. He can get his touches. So much of what the 49ers do offensively in the passing game is they're taking this guy away, they're leaving this guy in single coverage, or they're not rolling coverage to his side. We'll go to that side. That's why George Kittle could have 7 catches for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns one game. And the next game have 3 targets, 2 catches for 27 yards.
And regardless, you're saying CMC
he will always get his touches.
Right.
And you can do stuff. Like, there are times, like, they cannot guarantee when they break the huddle, even if Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, and George Kittle, any one of those guys could be number 1 in the progression. That's no guarantee they're going to get the ball unless it's like a wide receiver screen, something where the ball is going there. With a running back, they, or with Deebo, a handoff. He's getting the ball.
Easy touches.
But that's why I'd be reluctant to really sink an investment into a 49ers skill player, because other than maybe the quarterback or Christian McCaffrey, because so much of what they do, they have so many offensive weapons that if the defense has made a commitment to take one guy away, Kyle Shanahan rolls with it. And he goes, okay, fine, take Deebo Samuel away.
That player's day.
We're gonna go with Brandon Aiyuk, and he's gonna crush you. And then that's the game where you want, why didn't I have Brandon Aiyuk on my team? And then the next day, Brandon Aiyuk,
like, you either miss it or you don't, right?
And you can't predict. You can't predict on a week-to-week basis who it's gonna be.
Believe me, Matt, as fantasy analysts, we know you cannot predict, because we'll say, hey, Kittle's out there running a good amount of routes, like you might want to plug him in, but we don't know the game plan.
And so I've asked Kyle Shanahan this question. There are times where Deebo Samuel or George Kittle. This is a specific question I asked about George Kittle down in the red zone or whatever. Why didn't you throw George Kittle the ball? And he said, are you saying, Kyle Shanahan said this to me, he goes, are you saying that even though he's covered by 2 people, throw him the ball? And I said, that's exactly what I'm saying. And he goes, why would we do that? Really? Why would we force the action to somebody? We have confidence in him, but why would we force it to him when this guy's singled up? And that's even like throwing a pass to Juwan Jennings. So their philosophy is we don't need to force feed one guy and take the chance because coverage is pointing us to throw to that guy, the open guy.
Sure. In some ways, it's a very fantasy-friendly offense in that it produces a lot of yards, can produce a lot of points when a decent quarterback is under center. And another way, it's the most frustrating.
You just don't know where it's going to come from that day. Speaking of Christian McCaffrey real quick, we don't really have to. We shouldn't have to worry too much about Elijah Mitchell. We know he's a good back and he'll get his reps, but how much? Because these playoffs, he got some carries in a couple of games. One of the games more than Christian McCaffrey. Was that due to just the maintenance and trying to keep him healthy?
Yeah, I mean, both of those guys. Elijah Mitchell is more of an injury concern than Christian McCaffrey. I mean, McCaffrey had the 2 seasons, and I also kind of wonder, because I think both of those seasons where McCaffrey did not play much, but he played like maybe 10 games in 2 years or something like that. I think a lot of that had to do with the Panthers being completely out of it, and there was no reason for him to rush back or the team to push him back out there. But I think Mitchell's running style, he doesn't shy away from contact. He is kind of a big target in that he hasn't perfected the art of being hit by glancing blows. Like, he gets crushed.
Yes.
He does. And so he's had in 2 NFL seasons, he's been ultra productive when he's been on the field.
Right.
The problem is he has missed a lot of football games. I'd say more than half of the games he's missed. So that's all part of it. But I think ideally, like at the start of the 2023 season, if Christian McCaffrey is healthy and Elijah Mitchell's healthy and everybody's healthy, they'll, it's a long season.
Yeah,
I mean,
we still taking Christian McCaffrey number one.
That's true.
It is a long, long season. So the idea is to kind of increase the shelf life and make sure that when you hit those games that mean a lot in December, and for the 49ers, they expect to be playing in January, maybe even in February, you want to be able to minimize as much as you can the hits that those running backs are taking.
Right on.
Sure.
And so it also might mean a little more Ty Davis Price, a little bit more Jordan Mason. They have 4 running backs they really like.
Jordan Mason was excellent in limited duty.
Yeah,
very really good. I wanted to ask you just real quick about the draft. Any ideas, any thoughts about what the 49ers will try to do, or especially early in the draft this year?
If you're talking from a fantasy standpoint, I don't necessarily see them going after a skill player.
Okay.
I would think offensive, defensive lines. Okay. That would be my idea. Maybe a true slot receiver. Maybe, they have Danny Gray that they drafted last year who didn't get on the field.
Develop.
So they should, he's a speed guy that they would develop. But nothing really comes out. Maybe another tight end, like a backup tight end. Yeah. Someone who maybe whenever George Kittle has to exit the lineup, there's not such a drop off. Sure. But I don't see them adding any skill players that are going to make you reevaluate your draft chart.
They got their guys.
That's good to know. And then finally, we wanted to get your Super Bowl 57 prediction. Who do you have, Chiefs or Eagles?
Well, I think the Eagles' offensive and defensive lines are really good. I don't know that the Chiefs will be able to protect Patrick Mahomes. I wish. I'm still kind of leery or a little bit skeptical whether both of these quarterbacks are truly healthy. I mean, Jalen Hurts. I know. The Eagles. Obviously, Eagles crushed the 49ers for a lot of reasons. Well, one reason in particular. But I didn't see much from that Eagles offense.
It struggled.
They did. Other than that first drive of the game. But I still think the Eagles are really good. Yeah. Their offensive and defensive lines are very good. I think they might win this one by 2 touchdowns. Yeah? Yeah.
All right.
Let's go 31-17.
I like a bold
Matt
take.
Maiocco with the blowout.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll get rid of this. If that's right.
We'll edit it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Matt. We appreciate you joining the show.
Appreciate it.
All right, folks. That was Matt Maiocco from NBC Sports, NBC Sports Bay Area. We appreciate him coming on the show. We're going to take a quick break here. And during this break, I want to tell you about the bundle prices for our draft guide. Every season, as you know, is draft season. You can get your Rotoworld draft guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts. It's packed with profiles, rankings, projections. You can order today and get all 3 Rotoworld draft guides for the price of 2. You can't afford not to do this, folks. Plus, use the promo code Bundle5 and save an extra $5 at checkout. We also want to remind you about the Rotoworld app, which you should have on your phone. Honestly, if you don't have it on your phone, you need to reevaluate what you're doing with your fantasy sports life. You can download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long in blurbs, of course, written by me, Lawrence, Rotopat, Pat Corain, Kyle Dvorchak, and a host of others. Stay ahead of the competition by favoring players on your roster and get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your app store today. All right, Lawrence, we're going to shift gears here a little bit, or a lot, really, and talk about player props for the Super Bowl. And like I said, look, a show hosted by me. We're going to do the ugly props, okay? And I appreciate Lawrence for.
We could get some ugly ones along. In. We could go for the juice. We could do it all, man. Not your basic, not your not your Travis Kelce over/under numbers. We want to dig a little deeper here.
You go elsewhere for that. You can go to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. We have about 10 minutes left in the show. We want to go into the prop for Kadarius Toney receiving yards at 23.5. Now, as you know, I'm an unapologetic Kadarius Toney truther for whatever reason. I think Lawrence is on board.
Yes, indeed.
With Kadarius. We were talking, I think, yesterday about how it looked like Kadarius was finally being featured as much as a non-Kelce pass catcher can be featured in the KC offense. in that Bengals game until he hurt his ankle on that cut up field. Now, he says he's definitely playing in the Super Bowl. I think we can bank on that. The snaps, we don't know. The routes, we don't know. Are you going over or under here at 23.5?
Yeah, I'm going to go over because, like you said, in that AFC Championship game, he looked like he was well on his way to accomplishing that. He had the deep ball touchdown target, didn't quite come down with it. He actually got hurt on what was a 9-10 yard gain.
Yeah.
So they were looking to get him the ball. They was looking to manufacture him targets. The game prior to that, he actually had 7 targets. So he shouldn't have problem opportunity. So you kind of hoping the opportunity should turn into that production. If he starts and finishes the game, even on a limited amount of snaps, he should be able to hit that over for you.
He should also, I think importantly, avoid the coverage from the shutdown outside, boundary corners that Philadelphia has. A lot of the success against the Eagles, passing success, has come on short receptions and stuff in the middle of the field. And I think Toney can kind of live there, play from the slot. And honestly, the fact that Andy Reid is designing plays to make sure that Toney gets the ball, and he's been doing this for, as long as Toney has been in the lineup, which I know has been the frustrating part. Yeah. I think 23.5, I don't think that's nearly high enough. I think he could pass that in the first quarter.
I'm rolling with it. You give him a screen, get him 12 there, and you feeling good about that.
You're feeling real good. That's a good point. Talk about the Philadelphia running backs real quick, which we know can be frustrating. We had 2 prop bets here. One is Boston Scott. Now, his rushing prop is 7.5 yards. You can take the over at -140. He's gone well over that in 3 straight games, Lawrence. But all 3 of those games were in what would be called blowout game scripts, crazy positive game scripts for the Eagles. What do you say about that 7.5? Over?
That one, I'll be more prone to take some Kenneth Gainwell props over that because I know he's actually in the mix.
Right.
I will say that he could possibly be a little more involved if the game script worked against their favor. Because we know Miles Sanders isn't as active in the receiving game. In that case, you could see and we're talking just rushing, right?
Yes, rushing.
So it'll be tough, man. You got Gainwell, who's had 26 carries. He's actually their leading rusher in the playoffs. So you got Gainwell, then you got Miles Sanders. Unless it's a 2-touchdown lead, like Matt Maiocco said,
right,
then it'll be hard to trust, even though it looks really appetizing at 7.5.
As you know, Boston Scott is going to be and always and has been.
If this was the Giants,
I
feel good about it.
You would take the over at 40 for the Giants, because he loves killing the Giants. Game script, he's going to be game script dependent. Very sensitive to game script in this one. I wanted to mention real quick the snaps breakdown in the Eagles' 2 playoff games. Miles Sanders has 34 snaps in those 2 games. Kenny Gainwell has 30. I should say Kenneth Gainwell. I don't know him like that. Boston Scott has 24 snaps. Gainwell, by the way, has run 22 routes to just 15 routes for Miles Sanders in the team's playoff games. Gainwell has 5 targets in those 2 games to 1 target for Miles Sanders. So just to get to Gainwell's prop here, it's 19.5 rushing yards. You can take the over at -125. Are you going over there, Lawrence?
Like I said, I'll be more prone to take a Gainwell prop. He's been the most efficient back for the Eagles in these playoffs, and he's getting more and more run every week, double-digit carries in these playoff games, man. So if there's I feel like he's the middling Eagles running back. Like you got Miles Sanders, who is the starter, and he is their lead back. And then you got Boston Scott right there, who could possibly steal you a touchdown. But then in the middle is Kenny Gainwell right there. So I like him in his ascension in the playoffs.
Sure. I did want to mention that Gainwell is averaging 6.2 yards per carry,
extremely efficient
in the playoffs, and he has 26 carries to 28 carries for Miles Sanders. So it's been a backfield split. I know that Miles Sanders scores the rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Generally, I know that Gainwell had a couple, but I think Gainwell I think that's a great over there on 19 and a half.
You could get in a situation here, right? If the Chiefs have lapses in their run defense, much like the 49ers did, you could come into a situation where it really could be any of these backs, whoever's in on that play, and whichever whichever play the Eagles decide to run that read option where they hold the middle linebacker. Like Fred Warner had trouble with that, and he's one of the best.
Right.
So it's just gonna be like whichever running back is in the game at that time. It's hard to kind of know who's going to be. That's why I'm choosing Kenny Gainwell, the middleman.
I think Gainwell is less game script sensitive than Miles Sanders. I mean, because Miles Sanders is not involved in the pass game at all. So if the Eagles fall behind by a score or two here, or three, if it's a blowout,
back a favorite,
then Gainwell is I think going to see a big boost there. Real quick, we have a few minutes left. We wanted to look at the showdown lineups. We're going to have to kind of truncate it here and talk about building lineups based on likely game script. And I've said the term game script 48 times in a row now, and I'm sorry for that, but we're going to keep going with it. Lawrence, tell me about who you are prioritizing if you're building your DFS Showdown lineup for an Eagles blowout victory here.
Yeah, so for an Eagles blowout victory, right, I want to go. We just talked about Gainwell there. That's a sneaky captain spot player guy. Now, in that game, right, I want to still be able to roster Patrick Mahomes, right? Now that you have Hurts and Mahomes, you can't put Travis Kelce in there, right? So if you believe Juju can do something, which he hasn't, you could throw him in there. And again, Eagles blowout, I'll go a kicker here, Jake Elliott. If you want to go cheaper with that same lineup, Kenneth Gainwell, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Kadarius Toney,
there we go.
Right? We talked about him, and then you could still get Dallas Goedert in there. I actually kind of like that lineup more because
I liked it a lot.
Kadarius Toney is about $1,500 cheaper than Juju.
Yeah.
Juju would be more of if you're feeling like, if you're one of those people that feel like he's due, and you want to just separate yourself, getting the Juju touchdown would definitely do that. So that's why, I threw him in there. So in the Eagles blowout, it would be ideal to have 3 Eagles and 2 Chiefs, and one of those Chiefs obviously being Patrick Mahomes.
So one way to get unique with showdown lineups, and look, if you aren't sick to your stomach about how your showdown lineup looks at the end of the day, then you're doing it wrong. I mean, you have to pick ugly players. You have to just have lineup constructions that don't look right, don't feel right, and one of those ways to get weird and for it not to feel right is to have 2 running backs on the same roster. That is a great way to get unique, whether you're going with, say, McKinnon and Pacheco on the KC side, or Sanders and Gainwell, or Sanders or Scott, or just Scott and Gainwell. My Philadelphia blowout script lineup would look something like this. Captain would be Miles Sanders. Then I'd get Scott and Hurts in there. And then you can still jam Mahomes, Kelce, and our favorite sprinter on the outside, Justin Watson. Justin, he gets good exercise, and you can't take that away from him.
Maybe he might get that one deep ball, even though it feel like it's been forever. they had it. He did it versus the Chargers, which seems like 6 years ago now, but he did it though. That's all that matters.
I mean, he's out there. He's running 80 to 90% of the routes in the Kansas City offense. You would think that he would accidentally fall into, I don't know, 2 or 3 targets. Maybe you catch one, Justin.
Well, last week we can't put it on him. He wasn't active last week.
He wasn't active, right.
With the injuries, or at least the fear of injuries coming into the Super Bowl, we may see a change in that. We don't know, but we'll have to see.
All right, and real quick, what would your Kansas City blowout script lineup look like?
Yeah, so basically I would flip the script on that. So I would go, I get Kelce in there. I get Hurts in there, right? I'm sorry, I get Mahomes, Kelce, and Hurts. So those are your 3 big guys there. The only thing is you probably have to, go kicker in that situation. Now, hey, remember, there was a time early in the season when the Broncos faced the Colts, and nobody but kickers scored in the game.
We remember that.
You know, so go with the kickers, man. They kicking the field goals, and in a game where the over under is 50.5, it's gonna be some points scored there. So I would just flip the script and go 3 Chiefs opposed to 3 Eagles in that situation.
So my Chiefs blowout script lineup would look something like this: Mahomes at captain. You get Kelsey, Watson. I'm just jamming Watson because he's only $2,000 on DraftKings. So you'd have Kelsey, Watson, Toney, Pacheco, and then you could put AJ Brown or Devontae Smith in there, whatever you'd like. So it'd be a 5-1 lineup. Now that's a real ugly game script for the Eagles, and that means that you'd be fading Jalen Hurts, which will make your lineup very weird and unique. I remember I said you're not going to feel good about it, but that's part of the showdown process, is not feeling good about it.
All right, yeah.
Lawrence, thanks for joining me on the Rotoworld Football Show. Thank you for watching us live at Super Bowl 57, and we will be back tomorrow with a guest with possibly more DFS talk. You can't get enough showdown talk. We're going to give it to you. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.